Alrighty, thank you for joining me. This is Beto Paredes, and you are here for the Morning Mindset. It is Friday morning. Friday. How many of you all excited to get out there for the weekend and to have fun and completely forget about the week and all those things that honestly, in my opinion, are one of the reasons maybe your business isn't making enough money because your mentality is that way. Well, whether or not, if you're going to do it, have a great time. Always do everything that you do with fullness. We're going to be talking about that a little bit today, of filling the life that you have at every level and every perspective, but learning how to do that with direction. Okay, this is the Morning Mindset. We do this Monday through Friday. Every single morning, I am here with you to give you as much of myself and as much guidance as I can. I'm also here because I want to get my mindset right. I am an entrepreneur. I have a tremendous number of things that I do on a consistent basis, lots of partners. Of course, this Morning Mindset is for the entrepreneur. It's for the business owner. It's for really anyone who's trying to do something special with their lives, that stand on the edge of that abyss of what and why and maybe, and learn how to hold yourself strong when you're staring out into the unknown so that you can keep your ground and you can make the things in your life really happen. If you're listening to this, you can always join us every morning, 7 a.m. Pacific Standard Time and 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time by going to tinyurl.com/MMS today, and that will take you to the sign up page where you can actually sign up to join us, and you'll get a reminder from GoToWebinar, and you'll be able to be right here with us. So let's get into our subject. What is today's subject? Well, Bruce Lee specifically is an individual I have a tremendous amount of respect for. I've done a lot of my own personal development, you could say, in the martial arts field. I have even done some very intensive work at one time in Kung Fu. And so I very much have a lot of respect for that field, but what I really love is the perspective a lot of times that Bruce Lee himself had on personal development. So we're going to talk about a subject that I think is absolutely critical, so important to understanding what it is that you should be doing with your life, with your mind, with the way you should be perceiving your work. Be flexible, elastic, and unchanging. How does that sound for a paradox? Flexible and elastic, but unchanging. Everybody knows what flexibility is. If you've got something you're trying to do, and for whatever reason, the things that are in your environment put a pressure on you for one way or another, whether that be your spouse, whether that be a business idea that you had that's not quite working out the way you want it to, whether that be your plan to make 40 phone calls this morning, but for whatever reason, you kind of dealt with that internal psychology of doubt, that internal perspective of self-esteem issues, and you've kind of gone through 2 or 3 hours this morning, you didn't do what you said you were going to do. There's a lot of reasons why our desires or our perspective gets changed by the environment in which we live. Now, the thing is very important to understand is the change that is created by the environment is also the exact same thing that creates all of the wonderful, incredible, amazing opportunities that happen around us. We put pressure on it, it puts pressure back on us. It's just how it works. It's a refinement. It's like stepping into the refiner's fire, right? So we're going to talk about a perspective. And this perspective was said best, in my opinion, and I read a lot of people's personal development books. I do a lot of my own personal development. You guys know I quote a tremendous number of authors. Well, I'm going to talk about Bruce Lee today. All right, and that's not something I do that often, but I can tell you I have as much respect for him as a personal development individual than anybody. The guy was an incredible individual. For any of you that want to look into his theory and his philosophy, I think that would really be a very good use of your personal time. So I'm going to read this quote by Bruce Lee, and then we're going to talk about this theory. You must be shapeless, formless like water. When you pour water into a cup, it becomes the cup. When you pour water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. When you pour water into a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Water can drip and it can crash. Become like water, my friend. So let's speak about this. If you're like water, then you're very much just like my top comment. You're flexible and you're elastic, but you're unchanging. You still hold the same volume. You're still the same substance. It's not that we took away from the water. It's that the water became what it was that it was in living. In other words, if I'm deciding in that unchanging perspective, okay, we'll talk about what that means in a minute. If I'm deciding in that unchanged perspective to do something, and then that something that I'm doing suddenly is affected by that which is around me, my environment. Let's say it's a teacup at this point, and I didn't necessarily plan for a teacup. Well, that unchanging part of myself can still feel it completely and totally. In other words, as things happen that don't match the blueprint of what you were planning, that don't match that idealization of where you're heading, what your potential perspective on your outcome was, you can still, from that unchanging position, that determination that you have, that you are, fill every part of what is given to you. In fact, one of my favorite quotes by Tony Robbins is, whatever's given to you, use it. Me and my wife laughed about that a little bit. We even kind of practiced that a little bit and thought about that a little bit more thoroughly, like right after we heard it. Literally, whatever's given to you, use it. That is being like water. Okay, you want things to go a certain way, but whatever life actually puts in your hands, use it. If you're going to fill a teacup, become the teacup. If you're going to fill a cup, become the cup. If you're going to fill a bottle, become the bottle. Use whatever life gives you. Okay? Be unchanging in the perspective that you are the volume, that you are that water, you are that person that is planning to create and achieve that outcome. Don't let anything that shapes you, don't let anything that comes in from your environment change the fact that that outcome is going to be the place that you are going to end up being, period. Do not let the fact that you are in a bottle change the fact that you are water. Be unchanging in your perspective, but be flexible, elastic. Elastic's an important word. Because what does an elastic do? If you grab it and you bend it all the way out and let go, what does it do? It snaps right back into place. Okay, be elastic, meaning fill and fit anything that comes to you. Figure out how to use it to the advantage of what it is that you want, and make sure you let that elastic pull you back into the shape in which you are working to create your life. Because overall, you are the master shaper. You are the blueprint maker. How you get things to fit into that blueprint is a case-by-case basis by continuing to stay flexible and elastic to pulling things back into the shape of that blueprint while you fill it and use the things that life gives you to get there. Don't ever look at challenges as something that aren't worth dealing with. Now, I fiend to remember who said this, and I want to say it's Tony, but I don't think it was. Me and my wife were listening to us. Maybe she remembers, but there is a sales. That's really funny. I actually heard this while I was at Get Motivated Utah. That's right. And I'm not sure which speaker it was, but I love the concept, okay? An individual sales guy would purposely look at all rejection as a motivating factor. In fact, I think I talked about this on one of my other mindsets. So whenever anyone would tell him no, they would give him motivation. He would get excited. He'd be like, oh, man, I'm going to use it. This challenge, right? This opportunity for me to change. And I thought about it. I was like, that's like working out, right? How many of you just drop to the floor, just absolutely love doing push-ups, jump up and down, just, well, it's time to do push-ups, right? It's usually this, okay, all right, get yourself ready. Okay, you're going to handle this. You're going to be all right, right? This guy's using what he's been given. He's filling that perspective. He's seeing that it's a bottle, and he's filling it completely with that unchanging perspective of who he is. He's flowing with it like water. He's using it to motivate himself towards that unchanging perspective of the outcome that he wants. What does he want? He wants to be more aggressively capable of dealing with more people more often in more positive ways so that he can get more sales. You see? His perspective is unchanging to the outcome that he's trying to develop, but he is like water in any situation, whether it's a no or a yes, makes no difference. Focus your outcome and move that direction. That's what matters. When you are clear about what you want, what that blueprint is, divorce yourself completely and totally in every possible fashion, in every possible way from the idea that getting to that blueprint is going to be an A to B situation. Life does not work in lines, and I will repeat this over and over because it will remain true. Life is a curve. Tony Robbins talks about, how many of you like surprises? That's what he says. You know, raise your hand, right? It's one of his talks that he gives. And he says, no, you like the surprises you want. Okay, because life's full of surprises, good and bad. But that's because it's on a curve and you can't see around it. Okay, you can get perspective, and like an eagle flying into the sky, he can see the curve of the earth. So you most certainly can see further into the curve of the earth or the curve of your life by getting perspective, by getting that philosophy down about how life works so that you can see further around that curve. But it never changes. At the very atomic level, we have particles that are flowing around each other, that are flowing around more particles, more atoms, creating molecules, floating around, working in this circular motion, this atomic circularity. How's that? Made up a word. And then around us, we're standing on a planet that's flying around the sun, that's flying around a bigger set of suns, that's flying around a universe that's part of some gigantic cluster, right? In the Virgo constellations, that's some part of some big superstructure, and it's all orbiting. It's all moving in curves. There are no straight lines in life. If you think for some reason that the fabric of our consciousness, from the very molecular level all the way to the grander structures around us, somehow changes from being curves to straight lines, you're creating a false sense of reality in your mind. So you must be like water. You must know that life is going to give you things that you were not prepared for in both good and bad ways. And that part of you that is unchanging, that volume, that water that is you, that is creating that blueprint, must continuously, no matter what is put in your hands, ask yourself, now that it's in my hands, how do I fill it completely? How do I use this in totality? Instead of letting things that happen hurt your self-esteem, letting things that happen give you doubts, letting things that happen stop you from fulfilling your blueprint. Be flexible and elastic, but unchanging. Focus your outcome and move that direction. It's Friday. I am going to do my best to be a product of my advice. I always say, make Friday the day you work the hardest because everyone else is working half as hard. So you've got to work twice as hard to get the results that you get from the rest of the week. And why is Friday so important? Because if I hand you a $100 bill and I ask for $20 back, and you're left with $80, that's a lot out of that money. Now, $20 might not be a lot out of 1,000, but out of 100, it is. And that's what Friday is. Friday is a fifth of your week. 1/5. It's a very large amount of your week. Okay, make it count like every other part of your week counts for you. Be different. Like Jim Rohn says, if you want things that others don't have, you have to do things that others will not do or are unwilling to do. And I'll tell you, this one particular day is a really important thing for you to look at from that perspective. Get out of the employee mentality. We are not employees here. We are dreamers. We are absolutely here to be successful in the businesses that we run. We are going to fulfill our lives, and we are going to fill it like water. No matter what it is that it gives to us, we are going to become it and use it so that we can continue to move forward and scale and grow and become the thing that we want most, to get the desires that we want most, to help others get there as well, to be the examples that we should be for that to work. Everyone have an incredible day. I will be back here Monday morning. If you want to get a hold of me, you can get a hold of me at betoparedes.com, and you can always join us here every day. We do it Monday through Friday. Write down a few things that we learned here today and see what you can't do to include that or incorporate that into how you're going to make this Friday really count. Thank you for joining me, and I'll speak with you again on Monday.